This episode is brought to you by Google. Innovation is deeply ingrained in America, and Google is helping Americans innovate in ways both big and small. There are hundreds of thousands of skilled trades roles across the U.S. waiting to be filled. To help close this gap, Google is expanding its skilled trade support to help train more than 300,000 American workers across more than 20 states. This is a new era of American innovation. Learn more at grow.google/skilled trades.
Go further with the American Express Business Gold Card. Earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels when you book through AmexTravel.com. Whether your destination is a business conference or a client meeting, your purchases will help you earn more points for future trips. Experience more on your travels with Amex Business Gold. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
Morning decisions. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
Good evening, everyone. What's happening? How you doing? Hope you're staying warm. It's cold across the country like it never before. We just experienced like minus 40 here in Chicago, and I think Nashville got 5 inches. My son's down at Ole Miss at school. He got like 2 inches down there. It is craziness all over, but we're going to warm you up with the sweet sounds of the Hook Rocks podcast. I'm Jay Scott, and this is the Ultimate Rock Community Podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. I always do appreciate it. We are part of the Pantheon Podcast Network, a great network of music-related podcasts, including the official Metallica podcast that you got to check out. So visit them at pantheonpodcast.com, as well as on Threads, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Pantheon Pods. And you can do the same on all 4 of those platforms with the Hook Rocks. Just search up the Hook Rocks. Also, don't forget to subscribe, follow, and like wherever you do podcasts so you get the latest episodes right to your phone. We've got over 550. We're 4.5 years into this. Some great episodes to start the year off, of course, with our year-end top 25, where we celebrate 2023. We also welcome Matt Wake talking Robert Plant and why he has refused to do any reunion tour for the last 2 decades with Led Zeppelin. We welcome the Gems with their new album, Phoenix, that's out on January 26th. We just welcomed Sophie Lloyd, the guitar player from Machine Gun Kelly, and Joe Satriani and Todd Dan McCurtain. So some great episodes to really start us off for the year. And please tune in. Please give us a listen. Please let us know what you think. We always appreciate 5-star reviews. And we've got a return guest, one of my favorite guests. He's become a friend through this podcast. We see each other at shows all the time. You know him as the Hook Rocks audio professor. We didn't do one last quarter just because we're kind of running out of topics. So we're going to try to get creative this year. And we got creative with this episode. But first, without further ado, It is Rob at Skylab Tapes on Twitter. All his information will be in the show notes on where to find him. He is the man. He is the professor. He is the expert on all things audio. What's happening, my man? How are you?
Hey, Jay, it is great to be back. I was sad it didn't work out last quarter, but we're going to come back with a vengeance this time, and not only some fun stuff to talk about, but I'm bringing guests with me, the guest of the guest, right? So
you're booking guests. You're doing ideas for the show. I love it. I mean, this is what the community podcast is all about. Different things to talk about with different people and fans like yourself of music. I know you're really into prog rock. That's kind of your forte, although you do kind of get into everything, which is awesome. But this is really kind of about the best of both worlds with what you talk about. It's about surround sound and the mix and the production of an album that you absolutely loved last year. That's one of the members of the band that's going to be joining us later, and how it impacts prog rock and how it impacts music in general. So thanks again for doing this.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And, it's fascinating. I can imagine that I know for a fact there are plenty of people who are really into audio who don't listen to a lot of prog. But that said, prog and good sounding albums have been intertwined for as long as there has been progressive rock, right? One of the all timer measures of good recorded sound is Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, which is for many people the proggiest thing they own, right? And was engineered by Alan Parsons and all of those, all of that good stuff, which made it just not just an incredible album musically, but an incredible sounding album. And then Alan Parsons himself with the Alan Parsons Project, some of the there's some amazing sounding albums that I think we've talked about a little bit before from his band, and that list of really good sounding progressive rock albums is pretty lengthy. And there've been some interesting audio developments over the last couple of years that we'll talk about here. But I wanted to start with just what an incredible year for progressive rock 2023 was. It just across the board, one of the most impressive year of new album releases that I can recall. I mean, you had everything from the kind of current progressive rock heavy hitters like Haken and Riverside and Neil Morse and Steven Wilson, all releasing new albums that were great. There were live albums from Transatlantic and Porcupine Tree, and then great new albums from, somewhat lesser known bands, but, I don't want to say lesser known, but, kind of more up and comers like Crown Lands, Southern Empire, Mystery, Pattern Seeking Animals, and District 97, who we're going to talk about and with Jonathan from District 97 here in a little bit. There were also this year, in addition to all of that kind of modern prog stuff, there were new albums by classic prog bands and artists. Jethro Tull put out a new album in 2023. So did Trevor Rabin. So did Peter Gabriel. And while I personally didn't particularly care for it, the current lineup of Yes even released a new album in 2023. So, I mean, there was old prog, new prog, prog metal. It was just, it was really something. I felt like maybe this was just me, Jay, but I felt like 2022 was the year of like heavy psych, stoner, and desert rock. And this year, it was certainly for me personally, it was back to prog, because of how strong it was, in terms of new releases. My favorite of the year, which you saw, was Steven Wilson's The Harmony Codex. His new album, which is, it's a complicated record and depending on the song kind of spans a lot of genres, but there's some, he's best known for his contributions in the progressive rock world. And there's some great progressive rock numbers on that record. And it's the place to start, I think, with kind of that, bridging of music and sound, because Steven himself is, he's very into surround sound as a way of making music. he may be as famous as a remixer as he is as an actual musician. And he's done multi-channel mixes for King Crimson and Yes and Jethro Tull and XTC and Tears for Fears and even recently Kiss. Because Gene Simmons, he was like, who's the best guy to remix Destroyer in 5.1? And everybody told him Steven Wilson should do it. And, Gene was sparing no expense and said, okay, well, then that's got to be the guy. And so, that's probably not, I don't know that album is high on Hit Stevens' personal list of great records. I'm a huge Kiss fan myself, but he did it, and it sounds great. So, he thinks in terms of surround sound for music, and the Harmony Codex is his new album is as much a statement about what music can be in Dolby Atmos as it is anything else. I mean, there's great songs and music on the Harmony Codex, in my opinion. But a big part of it for him is about the playback methodology and listening experience as much as the music. And in fact, he has, unlike everything he's ever done before, so far he hasn't done a tour for this album, because what he said publicly is he wants to be able to replicate the surround sound experience live in the theater for concert goers when he actually performs it. And so I think he's still kind of working out how that might happen. He's done some surround sound stuff before in his live performance. I went to a show of his in 2013 at the Park West, and he was doing some surround sound, not full Dolby Atmos, but he was doing some surround sound stuff even then. And I remember during one of the songs that he played there's this part where there's a choir that comes blasting at you from directly behind, and it was so impactful that I'd love to hear what he has to do with that. So far, he's been actually focusing his attention on doing actual Dolby Atmos in theater listening sessions for people. So people in London can buy a ticket, not what it would cost to go to a concert, more like what it would cost to go to a movie. And, he does a Q&A, and then they sit in the completely dark theater that plays back Dolby Atmos and listen to his new album in surround sound in the dark. I had the good fortune. I didn't go to London, love to go to London for that, but I didn't do that. But I did have the good fortune. It just so happened that the week that the Harmony Codex came out, I was visiting a good friend of mine in the Philadelphia area who does have a full Dolby Atmos, very high-end playback system in a purpose-built room in his house. And what this means is that my surround sound system is more traditional for home theater, kind of, relatively speaking, modest compared to this, right? It's a center channel, 2 main speakers, actually 3 speakers in the back, and then 2 subwoofers, right? Now, for most people, they're like, geez, there's a hell of a lot of speakers, but that is the more common surround sound setup. The biggest difference between that setup and what my friend has and what full Dolby Atmos is that there are also additionally 4 speakers in the ceiling, doing not surround sound, not the rear stuff, but that third dimension, if you will, of a height channel, or channels, in addition to, front and rear speakers. And so I got to listen to the Harmony Codex in full Dolby Atmos, and it was amazing. It was really, really something. And Steven's not the only one. Peter Gabriel's new album, called I.O., I don't know if you've heard it. Finally a new Peter Gabriel album after, I think it's like 21 years or something ridiculous like that. He also sort of very progressive rock kind of thing to do. There are 3 different versions of that record. There's one he calls the Dark Side Mix, and there's one he calls the Bright Side Mix. And then the third version he actually calls the Inside Mix. And that is a Dolby Atmos mix of that record. So, it's caught the attention. Surround sound's caught the attention of a whole bunch of people. And for whatever reason, it seems to be more prevalent in progressive rock than it is in other genres. Maybe that's just because it's seen as a way to make, the music even more interesting. But there have been a bunch of things released in, surround sound and Dolby Atmos musically, in progressive rock, and including from big time people like Peter and Steven. So there's been and there will continue to I think to see even more of that kind of thing happening. And a good example is what we're going to hear about from Jonathan Schang in just a second for District 97, because he did a multi-channel mix of their new album. And so we'll get a chance to chat with him about that. I'm a big fan of surround sound for music. I think it provides a really enveloping experience, in the listening room. It's not, some people mistake it for being a way to get closer to what you experience at a concert. I don't think that's what it's for, personally. There's so much, and you and I go see a lot of live music together. There's so much about a concert that has nothing to do with, where the speakers are and that sort of thing that's just not replicable when you're sitting on your couch. But in terms of immersing you in the music and doing what, I've been very vocal about on your show before, saying I think is very important, which is to have music be a foreground activity, right? Listening to music as a primary activity rather than just sort of the sonic wallpaper of life that a lot of people unfortunately seem to use music for. Surround sound is a great way of having it be so immersive that it demands your attention in that way. And I think that's also an attractive part of having multi-channel or surround sound music releases, and why I'm personally glad to see people, as influential, I guess, as Peter Gabriel even releasing them.
Do you see that as the next frontier in terms of audio systems? I mean, a lot of people over the last decade have increased their expenditure on systems like this, audio systems for their house, because they can connect their TV, they can connect their phonograph to it, they can do all types of stuff to it. Do you see more albums, more releases, more music going that route with the streaming services, with the new albums that they're going to be putting out?
Yeah, I really hope so. And actually, you said something there that I think is the key, which is that you can actually stream surround versions of these albums. Like Apple, for example, has Atmos mixes available as a part of its streaming service. So it doesn't require you to buy a Blu-ray is the other very common way to have surround sound music, right? A Blu-ray, or even just an old, now it's old school, right? An old school DVD, as the audio playback for surround sound. And that certainly still happens quite a bit, and you can do that, but it is possible in the streaming world too. So yes, I think, there's a lot of people who have and continue to get surround sound receivers that they're really thinking of, well, I'm buying the surround sound receiver for my home theater, but I have streaming built into this thing. That opens up the ability to do surround sound music for people who might not have actually thought about doing it that way when they bought that equipment. The other thing is that there are also Dolby Atmos certified headphones. So you don't even need to have it be an entirely speaker-driven experience. I prefer listening through speakers most of the time, but we can't all do that all of the time. So headphone listening is also a possibility. So is it time? Should we let Jonathan in and ask him about his surround sound efforts this past year?
Yeah, let's bring him in. Hey, Jonathan, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey. Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me on. Looking forward to talking about some surround sound.
Absolutely. For those who are tuning in, this is Jonathan from the band District 97, Chicago-based band. And originally, when we were talking about what episode to do with Skylab, he was talking about surround sound, and he was a big, huge fan of District 97's album in 2023. And Jonathan was largely responsible for the production and the sound of that. So without further ado, we're going to continue what Rob was talking about in surround sound and music, like with the Peter Gabriel album. And we're going to talk with Jonathan about the District 97 album.
So, Jonathan, I just got talking about my experience listening to Stephen Wilson's The Harmony Codex in full Dolby Atmos at a buddy of mine's house who actually has a very elaborate Atmos setup. I don't know if have you heard his record yet? His new record yet?
I have not heard the new one yet. No.
Gotcha. So, it's the Atmos mix on that is amazing. And there have been a bunch of records that came out this year. It'd be interesting to get your take on this. That were also, that were all progressive rock records that all included a 5.1 or Dolby Atmos mix. And I personally was thrilled to see that "Stay for the Ending" was one of them. So. For everybody who's listening who didn't catch this part, so "Stay for the Ending" is District 97's new studio album released in October. Jay, it was in my top 10 on your 2023 podcast earlier in the year, and is actually my favorite of your 5 studio records. I think it's terrific. But I was, obviously very curious about a bunch of things relative to the surround sound mix. When did you decide that you wanted to do a surround sound mix for this record?
Well, it was, so we funded this recording through a Kickstarter campaign. And so we kind of have 2 ways that we fund a lot of our activities. So one is crowdfunding, and the other is a subscription-based service called the Inside the Vault Club, which you're kind enough to be a part of.
Yep.
So we wanted to do something special for the people that are both in the club and contributed to the album. So we figured a disc with a high-res stereo and a 5.1 mix would be a good way to do that, because I wasn't quite sure, a wide release of that, how much it would sell, because there are still a lot of people that don't bother with surround sound. So I thought kind of making it a more thing could be a good way to go. Though I am thinking about trying to do an Atmos mix and have that uploaded to the streaming services that support surround sound. So
Nice.
That could be a way to hear it more widely. But that's just something I'm kind of toying with at the moment. But we also do have that mix available for download on our website, district97.net. But essentially, I'm a surround sound enthusiast, and we did this with our prior album Screens, a similar model where it was designated for as a thank you to the supporters that have really contributed the most toward what we do. So it's kind of a way for me to hear the album in surround, a more immersive version of it, because I enjoy that, and a way to reward some of our biggest fans.
Nice. What do you have to do differently in the process of recording the album, like during the recording sessions, knowing that you're going to make a 5.1 mix out of it?
Well, in our particular case, I'll be honest and say we didn't really do anything differently, because, as I said, this was more of a thank you sort of thing than rather like we're making this album expressly to be heard in surround sound. But I figured that's not a huge detriment, because a lot of these albums getting remixed in surround sound now, I don't think, maybe they were thinking about quad occasionally on some of those records, but probably the lion's share of them were just meant for stereo. So I didn't feel that was a big impediment. But I also want to bring up Noam Wallenberg, who recorded the album and mixed it. And so he was the one who really brought everything into reality sonically. And we were talking about mixing in surround, which is something he had some experience in, but doesn't do a whole lot. But he said, for instance, if you're really going to knuckle down and record an album that's explicitly intended for surround, instead of, say, doubling a guitar part, you might quadruple it. So so I think that's a way that probably Stephen Wilson approaches it. But we didn't really have the luxury to be quite that fastidious.
Gotcha. And you actually did the 5.1 mix, or did he?
We both did it together. Like I was in the room with him. I think I'm trying to remember. I think he may have done a little prep work before I got there, but yeah, we went through every song, and I'd say, well, maybe let's try throwing this in their ears. Like I tried to make it, we only had one day to work on it, so I tried to make it as immersive as I could in that limited span of time, and also in a way that made sense for the music itself. Like I loved the stereo mix that he did, so I didn't want to change the character and color of that. I wanted to retain that, not pull it apart too much, but where we could get away with throwing keyboards in the back or vocals or something or some percussion. I wanted to do that, and yeah, some of the tracks, there's definitely a lot going on in the rears, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, I noticed that, which I thought was as well. What would you say your bias is in terms of in terms of a surround sound mix? Are you more interested in hearing different things go on in the different channels? Are you trying to make it more atmospheric, or do you have a sort of approach there?
Personally, I like pretty discrete surround mixes. Like I do like to hear stuff swirling around the room, and like a real 3D experience. So that's what I was going for on our mix, where I was able to. But I'd say probably my favorite 5/1 mix, or at least the one that got me excited about 5/1 in general, was the Beatles' Love. Which was just a whole new way to hear the Beatles for me. And so once that came out, I think I had the 5/1 DVD before I had a 5/1 setup, and so I thought eventually I'm going to need to get 5/1 to hear this properly. So that set a pretty high bar.
Yeah,
but it's been a lot of fun exploring other albums since.
Yeah, so did you take a mix of Stay for the Ending and 5/1 back to your place to listen to and then make changes to it, or once it was done, it was done?
Yeah, once it was done, and also it's just kind of difficult to I mean, I have not figured out a way to play it on my home stereo without an actual physical disc, a 5/1
Right.
file. But I mean, I've got an old Blu-ray player and an old amp, so it's probably just my stuff's too out of date. But I had to just kind of trust what we did in the studio. And then trying to actually get the DVD authored was a huge pain.
Was it really?
Yeah. Yeah, I asked this company, who shall remain nameless, if they could author the DVD. And they're like, yeah, we can do that. And then they kept sending me versions of it, and I could not hear anything in the rear speakers. And they kept saying, well, it sounds fine here. Like, it's got to be something on your end. And I was like, well, I just switched to another 5.1 disc, and it plays perfectly fine. And then I had some friends test it out. I guess I should have asked you, too. And they had the same issues. And so then, like, we were on our way to Europe at the end of August last year, and I was still trying to sort this out. So I had our friend Joel Barrios, who's a great photographer.
Oh yeah, I've met him.
Yeah, and he also does DVD authoring, so he was able to author it. I wasn't actually able to check it myself because I was overseas, so I had another friend check it, and I just crossed my fingers because it's like I need to get this done so I can get our backers the album as soon as I get back from Europe. So crossed my fingers, and luckily it worked out. The only disappointment was that I was hoping to have DTS on the DVD. Our friend Dave Kersner did a DTS version for us, which is compatible with DVDs, but
Yep.
But Joel's authoring software, for whatever reason, it wasn't taking to the DTS file, so it is the resolution, unfortunately, is a little bit lower on the DVD. It's what is it? It's a Dolby, but the download is high res wave.
Gotcha. So it does add a level of complexity to the release that I wasn't really thinking too much about, I guess.
Yeah, it was definitely a headache, and And then you have to figure out for the authoring, like what images you're going to have. Like Joel did a little video thing that was very cool, but I felt didn't necessarily suit the vibe of the music all the way through. So I felt a little bad, but I was like, I think let's just put band photos on instead. So there's a lot of decisions like that, that go into the overall presentation.
Yeah, that's interesting.
When you're recording or when you're prepping for something like this, versus what you normally do on a record versus surround sound, what are the differences in just preparation, preparing, and seeking out what you want to hear?
At Ollie, we've got wellness down to a science. From PMS to pregnancy to menopause, our women's wellness line offers science-backed support for every stage. No judgment, no shame, none of the stigma. Just supplements designed to meet you wherever you're at. Ollie, choose science over shame. Find support at a retailer near you or on ollie.com. That's OLLY.com.
Hear that? That's now Crispy and McCrispy strips meeting Creamy Caesar sauce. Sounds extra crispy. Caesar sauce at McDonald's for a limited time. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Hello?
Look what TJ Maxx dragged in.
The Devil Wears Prada 2 is now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
We are digital, we are downloadable, we are streamable.
The fashion event of the year is certified fresh.
Pull yourself together, we have work to do.
Critics say it's smart and witty and the perfect sequel.
That's all.
Get runway ready for The Devil Wears Prada 2 on Disney Plus and Hulu. Rated PG-13.
Right. Well, as I mentioned, when we were recording, it was pretty much just the standard process as we would do. But the thing is, our music is very layered anyway. There's a lot of overdubs, multiple guitar parts, multiple keys parts, oftentimes multiple vocal parts, and I overdubbed a bunch of auxiliary percussion. So even though we weren't making the album explicitly to be a surround sound experience, I still knew there was going to be enough to draw from to make an immersive listen.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, it worked out very well. It's funny because that was available, I haven't really listened to the album in stereo very much.
I hear you. I do recommend doing it though, because there's, like I said, there's a high res stereo version on that same DVD, and the stereo mix is killer too. But I often do that too. Like some of Steven Wilson's remixes, like of XTC, those are the first times I heard those albums, and those surround mixes are pretty much my go-to.
Yeah, I have several of those XTC ones, and they are amazing. Yeah. All right, so I got a couple of other questions, and then Jay may have others for you. But you mentioned the Beatles' Love, which I agree is terrific. Any other specifically progressive rock albums that you've heard in 5.1 that you thought were really impressive in that particular in a surround sound format?
Sure. Well, yeah, Steven Wilson, obviously he's the guy who is the master at this. I think his freehand Gentle Giant mix is really, really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the XTC ones, I fell in love with those albums through those mixes. So Oranges and Lemons is one that I think. Yep. Well, actually, I did have the stereo CD of that one. I think I got that first, but yeah, the surround mix really opens it up and improves the fidelity quite a lot.
Nice. So forgetting for a second about surround sound, and obviously excluding your own contribution to 2023, did you have a favorite progressive rock album that was released last year?
Boy, I guess I feel like a bit of a slacker. I really, I was so focused on making our album that I didn't really have the bandwidth to be checking out all the other stuff that was coming out. So like I said, I haven't heard the Steven Wilson one, which seems to be the consensus best of the year. I mean, I think I heard some of the Haken album, and they helped inspire some of the tracks on this new one, like the closing track, The Watcher, has a section in the middle with a lot of very heavy, aggressive kind of metal riffing. And I've seen them a number of times when we played Cruise to the Edge together. So I think the last time I saw them, I was like, I want to kind of channel some of this energy as best I can. So yeah, they're always
that's a great record.
I need to dive into that.
Yeah. Are you going to go see their show? They're doing the whole thing live at the Arcada in February.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah, there you go. A place you're quite familiar with, obviously, since I've seen you guys perform at the Arcada a couple of times.
yeah, we love it whenever we get a chance to play over there.
Yep, that's great. Jay, what about you? Other questions for Jonathan?
Yeah, it's really interesting about how the sound develops and how you record it. When you are recording the music and you're making decisions to do overdubs and layer the music that you guys do, are you hearing the surround sound while you're doing that stuff? Like, this is going to sound really great when we do this type of mix to it, do this type of production. Is that all encompassed when you are creating, or is that just something like, hey, maybe we should try to do this, and that comes afterwards?
Yeah, I think it was more after the fact, but there are kind of, strategies that can be employed for a surround mix. Like, generally, you're going to put the more atmospheric stuff in the rear speakers. Like, you kind of have the meat and potatoes up front, and then the more coloristic things you might put in the back. So a lot of the synths might end up back there that can give a nice fullness to the mix, and backing vocals, auxiliary percussion. And then if you want to really kind of drive home a more powerful section, you can also put some of the heavier stuff back there as well, like put the guitar in all 4 channels. So yeah, it wasn't something I was laboring over really, but I think every now and then I was thinking, this particular synth patch will sound nice, or this thing might be good to kind of swirl around the room. Like the surround mix has a little bonus ending, which I was toying with the idea of ending the album with this. It's like an isolated keyboard part from the last sound, The Watcher, that we manipulated to kind of change in tone and sound creepy. And for the standard mix, I decided it might be a bit superfluous, and just end the album with a bang. But for the surround mix, I was figuring, well, let's throw it on and swirl it all over the room. So that's just a little kind of Easter egg for that mix. But I figured it's gonna have an effect in surround that it wouldn't really be possible to have in stereo. So it's a worthy addition.
When you are recording this music and you're doing this surround sound mix, are you looking to enhance the music? Or are you looking to enhance the experience for the listener?
It's more the latter. I think the stereo mix definitely is not lacking in any way. Like it does full justice to the music. The surround sound, I kind of think of a surround mix like a 3D movie. I guess that can be gimmicky sometimes, but for me, if it's done well, it's a whole lot of fun. So, but you still want to have everything you need in the standard edition as well. So it's
for sure.
It's more, yeah. So it's more just another way to experience it for me.
As you look to the future with District 97 and music coming at a later date yet to be determined, and you go in to start creating and recording, does this give you limitless potential for your music, like more conceptual things, more storyboard type of creating with music? Or is it just something that'll enhance your influence, your style of music?
Well, I'm the only member of the band that has a 5.1 setup, so I think I'm the only one really thinking about this at all. I don't know. Tim was there for some of the surround mixing that day, so he's got some idea about it. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be like a top of mind thing. But now that streaming services are offering surround sound, like I mentioned earlier, if I can find a way to do it that's not incredibly expensive, I'm wondering if I can kind of have somebody take the 5.1 mix and kind of reformat it for Atmos, and then see about getting that on the streaming services. So if it becomes something that's heard more widely and gets a good reception, then I think I'll be prioritizing it more going forward.
I mean, it'd be interesting to see how all that works out, because with some of the albums that have been receiving a lot of press for their Atmos mixes lately, and specifically like being available on Apple Music to stream, like you were talking about. I mean, everything from Dark Side of the Moon, of course, now, but which has had multiple surround sound mixes. But even things like Who's Next, they made a big deal about that being available in an Atmos mix on Apple Music. So they may, hopefully they'll make that easier and easier. So that it's something that you could take advantage of. As a follow-on to Jay's question, when you guys are recording, do you record as a band more like in a group setting, or do you do it more sort of serially?
So it's really both. So we start with the basic tracking, and the main goal of that is to get the final drums and bass. But also everybody's there, so we keep what we can of Jim on guitar and Andrew on keyboards. The vocals are kind of more intended just to help with the energy of our performances and as placekeeper. So we do get some live energy from that. But then Andrew tracked the bulk of his keyboards at home, aside from organ he did in the studio and acoustic piano and maybe a handful of other things. But all his synths he did at home and did a really nice job on that. I went over to his place several times and we worked together on my songs. But a lot of the guitar was tracked just Jim, but with input from other band members as well. So there was not a whole lot that was just done, just one person all by themselves. Like usually there was input from at least one other band member. But yeah, it's kind of a hybrid approach.
Gotcha.
Is there a big difference in cost between a stereo mix and a surround mix for artists like yourselves?
So the way we were approaching it was essentially, let's take the stereo mix and soup it up into a surround mix. So yeah, it was definitely done on a budget. I can't recall exactly what we paid for it, but I think it was like an additional $1,000 or so for the surround mix. So, because our fans are so great, we're able to afford to do that. So yeah, it's achievable, but we only had a day to do it, so that's the trade-off.
Gotcha.
As far as, in your opinion, like as an artist, right, you're always critiquing your own art and what you've done with it. Have you had a chance for you just to absorb it and think of things that maybe you would have done differently with the mix?
I mean, for all our prior albums to this one, I would say yes, but I really feel like this one we kind of nailed. And I mean, Noam definitely gets the lion's share of the credit. We've worked with great people in the past, but I felt that Noam took things to another level with his attention to detail. For instance, during the basic tracking I was just talking about, we were setting up the drum kit, and so he actually comes into the studio and starts checking the drums out one by one and tuning them with a level of attention that I've never seen anybody tune drums before. So like he was so invested in every step of the process, from the hands-on tuning of the drums till the very end when we were working on the surround mix, that I really felt no stone was left unturned. And I think we worked together where for the first time, I think everybody feels like we totally realized the vision that we were attempting to make a reality.
Yeah, I think that shows, by the way. I mean, at least in my opinion, as I've said to you before, it does. So here's a loaded question for you. Now, you've had a couple of albums that you've done surround sound mixes of, and yet there has never been a District 97 vinyl release. Do you prefer to think, does vinyl feel too old school to you, and you prefer to think about kind of pushing the technology envelope, or that doesn't really factor in?
I am a fan of vinyl, and I do think it would be fun, but it might be cost prohibitive. Like, for instance, Stay for the Ending is close to an hour long, so it would need to be a double vinyl, and so that would drive up the cost. And then you've got to think about shipping them. It's a large package. I just don't know that they would quite sell enough to justify the expense. Like I did take an informal poll. I don't know, probably 3 years ago or so, like saying it was for the prior album. I said, like, if we were to do a crowdfunding campaign to fund a limited run of screens on vinyl, would you be interested? And it was not quite as enthused a response as I was expecting. So, seems like a lot of people are happy just with the CDs or downloads. I do think it would be fun to do the vinyl, but I would think I'd like a partner in there. Like, if our label was like, hey, we want to do vinyl, I'd be like, fantastic. But I think a lot of record labels, like I was talking to another record label owner, and he asked if we were doing vinyl. And I said that we didn't have plans. He said, that's smart. It doesn't give you the return you would expect. So personally, I'd love to see it, but I just don't know if it's very practical.
Interesting.
What is next for you guys in the new year after releasing your album in 2023?
Well, we've got a couple shows in March coming up, and they haven't been announced yet, so I don't know if I should quite spill the beans yet. But one of them will be in Chicago,
yes,
on Sunday, March 3rd, and then a few days later we'll be in Miami, Florida, on March 7th. So, for all you detectives out there, you can probably figure out what that one is.
Yeah, I know what that means. Sadly, I'm not doing Cruise to the Edge this year. I've never done it, actually, but this year isn't going to be the first, unfortunately, because it's an incredible lineup. But
yeah, it's always a great time.
Yeah.
As far as after those two shows, is there any plans for more music? Obviously more shows. Is there more in the works beyond that?
Yeah, I've actually just started demoing a new song in the last few days, reacquainting myself with Logic software, which is what I use to help me come up with my 3 songs on this newest album. So, yeah, I'm feeling like it's time for the cycle to begin anew. So, yeah, I think you'll definitely... I'm hoping... it's also looking like we'll do another Chicago area show. This one very close to you, Rob. In Forest Park, actually. I think in May. And so I'm hoping there will be at least one new song that we can debut for that show.
Amazing. Yeah, I know that we got to hear at least, it was either one or two, but at least one of the songs from Stay for the Ending back at the show where you opened up for Winery Dogs at the Arcada, and that was in March? So a good 6 months before the album was released. So it's always fun that you guys will play some new material at your shows before the album's even out.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty essential part of our process is to road test the material and get it under our fingers and kind of figure out how we want to approach it. But we had actually done a lot of the recording by the time you saw that show. We actually had a vocal session that same afternoon. It was a pretty action-packed couple days. We played with Winery Dogs in Milwaukee the prior night. Then we had a vocal session from like 10 to 3 or something the next morning after having only gotten back home around probably 1 a.m. or something. And then we had to go out to St. Charles for that gig.
What was that experience like opening up for the Winery Dogs? How did those gigs come together?
Well, we are pals with Mike Portnoy. You can see a video on YouTube of him actually sitting in with the band, taking my spot on a tribute to Taylor Hawkins, where we played "You Ought to Know" by Alanis Morissette. So it's tended to be the last few years, whenever he's had a project coming to town, we might reach out to him and say, "Could you use an opener for this show?" And the Winery Dogs stuff took a little while to come together, and I kind of figured it wasn't going to happen. But then I think it was maybe about 3 weeks before the shows, their booking agent contacted us and were like, "Can you guys do these?" And luckily we were able to. I think it was a really nice matchup.
It was great.
Yeah, for you guys, to kind of see those three individuals up there, Billy, Mike, and Richie. I mean, obviously Winery Dogs is more rock-based, modern rock-based, but they do have prog elements in their song. For someone who's in a progressive band like you are, when you hear something like that kind of merges two worlds, is that inspiring to you? Is that interesting to you? How do you feel about that stuff?
I think they're a great band, and they, it's an interesting hybrid of a lot of different influences, but it sounds very cohesive. So, yeah, I definitely find it inspiring. I think there's a song called "Deck is Stacked" on "Stay for the Ending" that I think kind of channels a little bit of Winery Dogs swagger, or Led Zeppelin or Aerosmith or something, definitely calling from some similar influences, but also with a lot of progginess in it too. So I think that track's probably our closest parallel to what the Winery Dogs do. So we made sure to play that one when we opened up for them.
Awesome. Well, Jonathan, it's been a blast getting to know you and learning all about this stuff. Thank you again for doing the show.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, really appreciate it, man. Thank you. And we'll see you soon, either way, at some point, either at your show or another one.
All right.
Both.
Okay, looking forward to it.
Fantastic.
All right. Appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Yeah, that was a blast, man. Thank you for setting that up.
Yeah, my pleasure. He's a great guy, and I've actually I've seen him at a couple of shows that I've gone to. He actually went with us to the Sons of Apollo show at the Arcada, and bumped into him at I think it was an Opeth show. So he's an avid concert goer. In addition to, of course, they play a lot live. As you would expect. So it's a really good, he's a really good dude.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm really interested to see where this goes with, the technology being there for, the recording of it, obviously, and for, the end user, the listener, to absorb it the way it's intended to. And, like I said in the beginning before Jonathan came on, more people are spending money on this stuff because during the pandemic, a lot of people went out, or you didn't go out. They stayed home. They got movies on Netflix or Disney or whatever it was. And now they're making that area of their home a true entertainment system with be able to play music, be able to play movies, and they're upgrading the sound capabilities for them. Yeah. So, it'd be interesting to see where this goes.
Well, and as we were talking about with Jonathan, one of the things that definitely pushes, people to kind of make sure they have the right capabilities and the right setup is when, a favorite massive record like Who's Next suddenly becomes available on streaming services in surround sound, right? And they're making a big deal about the fact that there's an Atmos mix of that, and it seems like they're, the whole Peter Gabriel thing. I mean, he's obviously intensely popular as well. So they're, the more of that kind of thing that happens, I just think more people will be interested in listening to it. And hopefully that means that, more bands like Jonathan's at District 97 will do it as well, because, I don't, you and I are not people who, as we've talked about all the time, are not people who only want to listen to monster albums of yesteryear, right? So it's exciting for me when it becomes something that, that bands that have a nice following like District 97 have, but are not the Who, can still be doing surround mixes. And it was interesting to hear Jonathan's, happily very candid discussion about the additional costs that are involved there. Right. I mean, it was not insignificant, but not astronomical either.
Right. And yeah, I think once this starts to pick up, if it does, which I hope it does, people will start to look for things that are in surround sound to get that experience. So, they may not know of District 97 prior to upgrading their system, but if they start hearing things about this album and how it sounds, they may buy it to get that experience with their surround sound in their home.
Exactly. And I hope so, because if that can continue to get people to be more active listeners to music, right, and not just passive listeners, then the world will be a better place, my friend.
That's a perfect way to end the conversation. So thank you again. Thank you again, man, for coming on and spending some time at the Hook Rocks. And thank you for inviting Jonathan on too as well. All of Rob's social media locations, which is basically just Twitter, will be in the show notes, and Jonathan and District 97's information will be there as well. So follow those links once you're listening and look up that album, look up that, the music for District 97. Give Rob a follow, give District 97 a follow wherever you do your social media. And thanks again to the audio professor for hitting a home run. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. And until next time.
Awesome. Yep. We got to figure out next episode. So
for sure.
Everyone, that is Rob at Skylab Tapes. Again, all his info will be in the show notes as well as District 97's. I'm Jay Scott. This has been another episode of The Hook Rocks. Thanks again for tuning in. Thanks again for following us. Appreciate it. Take care of each other. Stay safe. And we will talk soon. Thank you.
The smell of fire all around me, trapped on all sides by a rising sea. Two extremes that feed this opposing force that's fearless. Conserve your favorite, throw away the rest. Running dry is for the best. We can pivot as we see fit. We're building castles in the sandpit, one wave away from the ending, ripping apart while mending. These two actions at the same time. What a mess to leave behind. For the lives we're forced to keep, no regard for the living. Protect the pre and post, and if you're stuck here, learn to cope. Just get cross-faded, turn off. Don't wait, 'cause life's short. I'll make it drunk, stoned, elated. Bottoms up, inhaling, burned out and jaded. Don't get frustrated. Line up and take it. Two slits for eyes isn't a way. Squinting to see what is far away. Rosy glass.
At ZocDoc, we know being a healthy adult is like living in a video game. Every day has side quests, taxes, laundry, birthdays, and just when you're leveling up, you have to book a doctor. The insurance portal crashes, they put you on hold, your doctor doesn't take your plan, game over. We see you, so we made booking a doctor easy. Download ZocDoc, search by specialty, insurance, and availability. Book instantly, no cheat codes required. Find a doctor you love with ZocDoc.
Hey, this is Eric Hutchinson. I've joined the Pantheon Podcast family, and I hope you'll come check out my new podcast, Songversations with Eric Hutchinson. Each week, we find out what music matters most to the people who define our cultures. I interview famous guests like actors, musicians, comedians, politicians, and everyone in between. We listen to music together, and we talk about the soundtrack of our lives. It's funny, insightful, revealing, and it's a great way to discover new music. So come check me out, Songversations with Eric Hutchinson, wherever you get your podcasts.